Good evening or good morning to everyone. I share the full screen as you can see better the slide. Just two words to introduce myself. I'm Francesca Uleri and I'm a postdoc researcher at the University of Bolzano, even if this study has been financed by the Agri-System Doctoral School of the University of Piacenza. In this presentation, with regard to the article published in AGER some months ago, I will try to briefly summarize a form of capitalism from below that the peasant communities of the Bolivian southern highlands have experienced under the quinua boom during the last decades. The article has presented a specific form of site-specific form of capitalism from below, taking into account the changes in the land access system and the agricultural labor organization in connection with this new economic change, new economic scenario. Due to time reasons, I will not give here details about the evolution of the quinoa economy. Keep just in mind that currently Bolivia is the second world's largest exporter of quinoa in the world after Peru. And almost 90% of the total national production intended to export derives from the southern altiplano, the southern highlands. Taking into account the arrival on the market of the quinoa producing communities of the altiplano, the articles try to articulate the contemporary debate on the advancement of capitalism in these communities by focusing on two factors of production, land and labor, that are the factors of production of the peasant economies, starting from the consideration that the peasantry is not an homogeneous body, but is a body that differentiating itself may fuel and foster, support a form of capitalism from below at the local level. In this presentation, again, due to time reasons, I will focus exclusively on the land dimension. Then, if you want, in the session question, we can see together also the other dimension. Following the theoretical framework presented by the article, usually by form of capitalism from below, we entails capitalism that builds upon a demolition of the previous status quo, requiring the destruction of the social, economic, and political power of the landlord class and the concomitant transformation of the state as well. This is in opposition of contrary to the agrarian capitalism from above, especially in the regional case of Latin America, where we are to see form of capitalism guided from above by a landlord class. So we have a landlord root, as Cristobal Cai calls it, often characterized by a foreignization of agriculture. However, this vision of capitalism from above often generalized blurs local dynamics of transition to capitalism in contexts that do not present background elements similar to the others. First and foremost, in the access system, the land access system, and in the organization of the agricultural labor that may depend on territorial and local characteristics. The empirical part of this article draws upon a fieldwork conducted between November 2017 and March 2019 in three municipalities of the Bolivian southern highlands, namely Salinas de García Mendoza, Lica, and Cochacao. We are in the department of Oruro and the department of Potosí. These municipalities have been selected because of the total land cultivated with quinoa compared to the previous, to the rest of the country. Data have been collected using semi-structured interviews and the administration of a questionnaire to a sample of 60 quinoa producers. In the article, you can go deep in the details of the methodology as well. I go fast, going to discuss the result. We have to say before going deep in the result that we need background elements, and these it's important to firstly know that in the altiplano, the land is owned collectively, is a proprietà comunale. So no one has private property on the land. The collective ownership arrives in the Iceland in 1943 with the promotion of the agrarian reform under the government of the MNR, Movimento Nacional Revolucionario, that launched this reform under the slogan "The land belongs to those who work it." That means la tierra es de quien la trabaja. We have different types of access to the land. The first group is the group of the direct access, and we have the first voice, inheritance. The access by inheritance entails the transmission of the usufruct on the land from generation to generation, usually by patrilineal inheritance. On the contrary to the distribution way, the second point you have here on the slide, the community assigns the land to each household according to family labor force and members of the family, so also related food needs and availability of arable land in the community's territory. When the family size decreases with the respective reduced consumption needs, the community assigns again part of the land to other families. This mechanism is locally called accesso por repartición. It identifies a type of access by distribution. However, it is also accompanied by another type of access by distribution, which is the accesso por dotación, through which the community assigns, in this case, virgin or uncultivated land to new families. So families recently emerged. For the third case, we have here the self-attribution, through which a community member accesses to communal virgin land without previous assignation of the plot by the community authorities. The occupation of the land and its extension depend on the willingness to invest personal work on the parcel. Here, the communities, by reason of a local custom, the usufructo of de las tierras roturadas, which literally means the usufruct of the plowed lands, recognize the family usufruct on parcel which have been cleaned, worked, and made cultivable by community families. In this regard, we have to point out, and this is important to understand then the change, that agriculture until the 70s was an activity intended only for self-provisioning and a labor-intensive activity without the use of machinery. Consequently, the occupation of the land and its extension with self-attribution was self-regulated because no one could grab too much surface since there was a lack of manpower at the family level. Finally, we have to underline that both comunarios with a direct lineage in the community, so comunarios originarios and comunarios without this lineage in the community, can access the land through the sharecropping system, the aparceria. Another element before going deep in the result is that before the expansion of the economy, the pampa or the planitia, so a flat area more vulnerable to the risk of drought and frost, in this territory was chiefly dedicated to pasture for sheep and llama grazing, while agriculture and quinua cultivation was confined to the ladera, so to the mountainous parcels. Between the 70s and the 80s, the profile of the altiplano started to change since the government and some NGOs promoted the mechanization of agriculture in the region. And considering that the mechanization was possible only in flat areas, quinoa started to be the main product of this new wave of intensification mechanization, since it was the only crop able to grow in the extreme climatic condition of the planicies. With these changes, many comunarios, community members, encouraged by the easing of the work, mechanical work, and the first slight increase in the quinoa prices due to the interest in the countries of the global north, opted to reduce pasture area and replace breeding activity with quinoa cultivation. which had less need of labor and a greater profitability on the market. Moreover, during the rise of the quinua economy, those who had more livestock unit and a respective dominant access to the planicie, to the communal pastures, could, through the sale of animals, accumulate sufficient capital to buy agricultural machinery, automatically transforming the usufruct for grazing in usufruct for cultivation. So they maintained their advantage of access to the land, which turned out to be significantly more profitable compared to the previous use that was instead recognized by the community on a different land use system, on a different food need of the family. In the same way, families who had off-farm income or external remittance from the cities or from the mining centers started to buy agricultural machineries and advocated of communal pastors under the slogan "the land belongs to those who work it," that concretely has converted in "the land belongs to those who have the capital to access and to work it with the machinery." Beside the possibility of cultivating large land extension, the owners of tractors began to rent and sell farm machinery services to who did not have the economic availability to invest directly in technological capital. So we can say, and we can see also from the data that are presented in the article here, I have just put some in the slide, there is a concentration of capital and land, also because we have to consider that many tractor owners are aparceros, tenants in their sharecropping system. So they, by offering mechanized work, can expand their land access frontier in communities where they do not have a direct lineage and where they do not have to respect community norms, since they are not comunarios or originarios. Even if a price was not directly attributed to the land, the trend in the international quinoa price influenced the social perception, local perception of its value, such that the occupation and concentration of the land increased in parallel with the price. This was also demonstrated by the fact that from the 80s onwards, the direct access to the land depended in part on family inheritance, of course, and mostly on self-attribution, while the redistribution system was completely eroded and eclipsed. Although up to the end of the 90s, the boom did not cause any friction between comunarios, since they were all benefiting from the market. At the beginning of this century, due to the saturation and the environmental degradation of the planicies, the boom started to create a discontent within the communities. Even if there are inequities in the land tenure now, the obligation for the community authorities, in accordance with the traditional usos y costumbres, is to guarantee the access to the land for the satisfaction of family needs. Therefore, in terms of land tenure, the community are now trapped in by the usufruct of the tierras roturadas, which has not been adapted and reinterpreted in the light of the technical and socio-economic change the communities are now living with the agro-export boom. The case presented by the article makes emerge an agrarian substrate in which the agro-export boom has been driven by peasant production units, while on the contrary, most of the development of the regional Latin American scenario regarding the agro-export sector has been and still is driven by the presence of big external foreign landowners, while in the regional scenario, agrarian capitalism and social differentiation have been fostered by the revision of the national constitution, the formalization of private land titles. In the highlands, these processes have been indirectly supported by the presence of an inert community that is imprisoned in their inability to adapt traditional principles, for example, the one of the tierras roturadas, to the new changes. It's a form of capitalism from below, and contrary to what was asserted by Bryce, you can see the third slide I put in this presentation, This does not require the demolition of the previous status quo, but simply its inertia, so the inertia of the community. Resultantly, and I go to conclude, in the Altiplano, the new configuration led the community as an institutional body to have its previous and original redistributive role eroded by its inertia, by its indirect endorsement for market logics. This is currently causing situation of land scarcity and related social discontent and claims, rising from the group of comunarios with a little land or from new families, which, given the saturation of the land and of the agricultural frontier, and also the growing soil degradation, have no access to the land or have access only to unproductive parcels. Hence, as I have strongly underlined in the article, a future study on this social analysis of the effects of the boom, and also a broader analysis on the evolution of agrarian capitalism, have to look with attention at this group of these claims, of this demand, and to look at the way in which the communities are organizing themselves to answer this demand and reconquest their redistributive role. Thank you so much for your attention. I close here, and I'm here for your question. Thank you.